Supply and demand explains why some things become expensive, cheap, available, or impossible to find. The process works because demand is how much buyers want at different prices, while supply is how much sellers are willing or able to provide. You can see it when mangoes costing less during a strong harvest and more when supply is poor. This matters because price changes often begin with buyers and sellers pulling against each other. Demand is not just desire. The hidden lever is that it includes willingness and ability to pay at a certain price. For example, many people may want a luxury watch, but only some demand it at the actual price. So the useful takeaway is that economics cares about desire backed by purchasing power. Supply is not just what exists. The moving part is this: it depends on production costs, capacity, technology, expectations, and whether sellers find the price worthwhile. A simple example is a farmer growing more strawberries when prices cover labor, water, packaging, and transport. The result is that sellers respond when the reward justifies the effort and risk. The meeting point between supply and demand creates a market clearing tendency. What changes the outcome is that if price is too high, unsold goods build up. If price is too low, shortages appear. A realistic case is a bakery pricing pastries too high and seeing trays left at closing time. That is why prices move, because sellers and buyers react to imbalance. A shortage happens when buyers want more than sellers provide at that price. In real life, the result can be queues, rationing, rising prices, or empty shelves. One ordinary version is popular game consoles selling out during holiday demand when factories cannot ship enough units. The practical lesson is that shortage is demand pressing harder than available supply. A surplus happens when sellers offer more than buyers want at that price. Under the surface, inventory piles up, discounts appear, and producers may reduce future output. Think of a clothing store marking down winter jackets after ordering too many for a warm season. The viewer should remember that surplus tells sellers that price, quantity, or product choice needs adjustment. Demand can shift for reasons beyond price. The practical engine is simple: income, taste, population, expectations, substitutes, and complements can change how much people want. Picture demand for home office desks rising when more workers move to remote work. Once you see that, the whole demand curve can move when life patterns change. Supply can shift when production conditions change. Mechanically, weather, wages, material costs, technology, regulations, and logistics affect how much sellers can offer. This shows up when a drought reducing tomato supply even if customers still want pasta sauce. That small detail changes the decision because supply can shrink because producing becomes harder, not because buyers change. Substitutes soften demand pressure. The process works because when one product gets expensive, buyers may switch to another that serves a similar purpose. You can see it when people buying tea instead of coffee when coffee prices jump. This matters because alternatives limit how far some prices can rise before behavior changes. Complements move together. The hidden lever is that if one good becomes more popular, related goods may also see demand increase. For example, more electric cars increasing demand for home chargers and public charging stations. So the useful takeaway is that one market can pull another market with it. Elasticity explains how strongly quantity responds to price. The moving part is this: some goods are easy to cut back on, while essentials may be purchased even at higher prices. A simple example is families reducing restaurant meals quickly but still buying necessary medicines. The result is that demand sensitivity depends on need, substitutes, and budget share. Supply also has elasticity. What changes the outcome is that some sellers can increase output quickly, while others need years. A realistic case is a food truck adding extra meals tomorrow versus a housing developer needing land, permits, financing, and construction time. That is why slow supply response can keep prices high even after demand is obvious. Expectations can move demand before reality changes. In real life, if buyers believe prices will rise later, they may buy now, creating pressure immediately. One ordinary version is families rushing to buy property before expected mortgage rates increase. The practical lesson is that beliefs about the future can change today's demand. Government policy can affect both sides. Under the surface, taxes, subsidies, quotas, rent rules, tariffs, and licensing can change buyer behavior or seller incentives. Think of a fuel subsidy lowering pump prices and increasing consumption unless supply expands. The viewer should remember that policy changes the market by changing costs or rewards. Black markets often appear when legal supply is blocked below demand. The practical engine is simple. If people still want the good and official channels cannot provide it, unofficial channels may emerge. Picture ticket scalping when event seats are limited and fans are willing to pay more than face value. Once you see that, suppressing price does not always suppress demand. Supply and demand is not a moral judgment. Mechanically, it describes pressure, but society still decides where fairness, access, and rules should intervene. This shows up when rising medicine prices may reflect scarcity, but people still debate patents, subsidies, and public support. That small detail changes the decision because explaining a price is different from approving every outcome. The practical way to use this idea is to ask what shifted. The process works because did buyers suddenly want more, did sellers produce less, did costs change, or did rules change incentives? You can see it when rent rising because population grew, construction slowed, interest rates rose, and landlords faced higher costs. This matters because real markets often move because several forces shift together. Supply and demand is the basic story of pressure between wants and availability. The hidden lever is that it explains shortages, surpluses, price moves, substitutions, and production decisions. For example, from groceries to housing to concert tickets, the same logic keeps appearing in different forms. So the useful takeaway is that once you see the two sides moving, everyday prices become easier to read. Supply and demand becomes real when you picture a product people actually want. If a new phone model has limited stock and thousands of buyers, sellers do not need to discount it. If the same phone is sitting unsold months later, the price may fall. Demand is the willingness to buy. Supply is the amount available. Price is where those pressures meet. Changes on either side can move the outcome. A bad harvest reduces the supply of oranges, so prices may rise even if people want the same amount as before. A health trend may increase demand for avocados, so prices may rise even if farms produce the same amount. The price change is not random. It reflects which side moved. The mistake is thinking demand means desire alone. Many people may want a luxury watch, but demand in economics means desire backed by ability and willingness to pay. Supply also depends on cost. A seller may want to produce more, but if materials, labor, or shipping become too expensive, increasing supply may not be simple. Supply and demand explains why prices move, why shortages happen, why discounts appear, and why popular products can still be unavailable. It is not a perfect explanation for every market, but it is a powerful starting point. When you ask what changed a euro, buyers, sellers, costs, availability, or alternatives a euro, you can understand most price movements far better.